Okay, so quiz on Wednesday. Again, it was mid-quarter this week, so I did send a whole bunch of emails out. And it's just making sure, you know, that at home knows your grades. So this one will be an important quiz for some of you guys. Okay, any issues on the homework? And homework has definitely been lacking, guys, lately. You need to do these to be able to be comfortable with them. We're actually going to do a whole, I will totally, but we are actually going to do a whole bunch just like these to get us started, right? So again, you have these numbers. So -1 works, right? -1 works. So you take that x equaling -1 as your 0 and you make it a factor. You write your answer. And then if you guys are comfortable with using the box method, right? You're going to go x, you're going to go x, you're going to go factors of 6 to get you a -5, -3, and -2. So that's how you'd go about factoring that. All right, so then x minus 2, x minus 3. Okay, you can always use quadratic formula too if you don't like factoring. Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, so we're going to have another one of those right now. And then we're going to do something like number 3, that's a little harder I, something like number 2, that's a little harder I. Cody, the glare on the window on that, can you shut the window? It's just the glare with the white things that kill me. That one. It's this one too. It's me when I like look at it. I can't see the board. All right, so get kind of in this, like someone in the other class was saying, this takes a whole piece of paper. Yes, these take a whole piece of paper, all right? So get some nice, clean pieces of paper. Part of this is always like staying organized too. Okay, so that's kind of an ugly 2x cubed, right? But I wrote kind of 3 of these to model everything that we're doing. Right, to model everything that we're doing on these. All right, so I didn't do this B period. Let's kind of write what we're actually doing, right? So we are finding zeros. We are factoring it. And the ultimate thing, we are graphing it. In order to find the zeros, we're using the rational zero theorem, which is our list. We're using synthetic division. With graphing, we're looking at leading coefficient. We're looking at degree. We're looking at zeros. We're looking at y-intercept. Okay. Ethan, is that a question? Yeah. Okay, so when I have a polynomial like this, it is of degree 3. So our ultimate answer of factoring should have 3 sets of parentheses, right? Because I know I'm going to have 3 zeros. So this one's going to be a nice one. We're going to be able to graph it. We're going to be able to factor it. We're going to be able to do our rational list, which is going to help us end up graphing it. Let's graph what we know first, right? Let's graph what we know first. So let's kind of do it in that order. All right, leading coefficient. Sophia, positive or negative for our leading coefficient? Positive. Does that mean right-hand side is up or down? Very good, right? So that's coming from leading coefficient being positive. Gracie, what's the degree? 3. So we care if it's odd or even. So that means odd. So Graham, does that mean the same or opposite? Opposite, right? So that means that. Trent, Cody, come on. Right, that means opposite. Okay. Y-intercept. Caroline, what's the y-intercept? Very good. -12 is our y-intercept. So I already have a bunch of pieces. To make this graph better, I can find the exact zeros. So that's what our list helps us do. So this is the stuff we were doing yesterday. I feel like this window open, it's cold. All right, so we're going to go right over left, right? So our P number is 12. That's our constant. Our Q number, I made this one so it wouldn't just be a 1 this time. It's a 2. That's our leading coefficient, right? That's our leading coefficient. Well, yeah. Yes. Yes, very good question, right? So I don't care there's a subtraction sign in front of that because at the end, I'm going to go positive, negative. All right, so Emery, factors of 12, what are they? What numbers can go into 12? 6 and 2, 4 and 3, 12 and 1. I just have issues that I like to put them in order, right? So I really do. I kind of go, okay, it's 1, and then I'll write 12 over here. I go in order. 2, 6, 3, 4, and I know I'm done. All right, Massimo, how about 2? What are the factors of 2? And 2. That's it. So yesterday we didn't have anything that didn't have a 1, right? So this list is going to be pretty long. So watch my list. I'm going 1 over 1. That's 1. 1 over 2. That's a half. 2 over 1. Hannah, how about 2 over 2? What's 2 over 2 simplified to? I already have it in my list, so I don't need to repeat it. 3 over 1. 3 over 2. 4 over 1. 4 over 2, already there. 6 over 1. 6 over 2, already there. 12 over 1. 12 over 2, already there. So all of those numbers are the possible numbers that are going to give me a 0 when I do synthetic division. So that's a big list. Which ones do you think you're going to try to like stay away from and not try first? 12 probably. What other ones? Probably the fractions, a half and 3/2, right? So I'm just going to randomly pick a number. I'm lying because I know what works, right? If I remember the answer. So one of you guys tried +6, one of you tried -6. So again, you're sitting in pairs, right? Triple, someone just repeat one of them. So somebody do positive, somebody do negative. Somebody do positive, somebody do negative. Somebody do positive, somebody do negative. My water is leaking all over the place. 6, positive or -6? Did anybody find one work or not work? Did it work or did it not work? I think one of them's supposed to work. almost positive, but I don't remember if it's positive or negative. Is it positive 6? I think that works. Right? Positive 6 works. So everybody that had negative 6, right? Everybody that had negative 6, you're going to erase that work because that doesn't work. You don't need the work. That's not okay, right? So I'll do it. Even though I know it's positive 6, I'll do it, right? So if I do negative 6, and I'm like, okay, let's see when I know it doesn't work. Let's see, negative 29. Oh, I don't know. I think it doesn't work right there, right? Don't you know that like this number is going to be way too high, right? Way too high, and I'm not going to get it. So at that point, you erase your work and you try something different. So again, I told you it was either negative 6 or positive 6. 2, 12, negative 5, negative 30, 2, 12, 0. All right, is that okay? So again, you don't keep the stuff that doesn't work. All right, so now let's write what this means, right? So this x equaling 6, this is the 0. So I can go on my graph and I can put a 6 that it hits there. I can then take this 6, bring it to the other side. And x minus 6 is a factor. Then if this is an x cubed, this is going to be an x squared. And I can write my quotient, x squared minus 5x plus 2. Are we good so far? You want everything to have a power of 1. So that means I need to try to factor this. I made this problem, so it is factorable. So you guys need to do your little box thing. 2x squared, 2. All right, well, 2x squared is easy. 2x and x. Does anybody remember why, when we were factoring, I'm not going to put a 2 here and a 1 here? It's going to work the other way. Very good. They have a GCF of 2. So I know that's not going to work. So it's going to be a 1 here and a 2 there. 2 times 2 is 4x. X times 1 is just x. They both need to be negative to get a negative 5. So that means x minus 2 is its other factor, which means I can put a 2 up here for a 0. 2x minus 1 half is another factor. So that means I can put a half up here for a 0. So if I go back to my problem, right, up here I said I could have 3 parentheses. That's what I have, right? 3 parentheses. I've got all the info that we talked about in your graph. So now I know it starts down here. I don't need to start it all the way to the left. I can start it here. Goes through negative 12, goes through a half, 2, goes through 2, and 6. Those are supposed to go through those numbers. So that's my graph. That's a really poor graph. I'm going to draw it better. All right, so 1 half 2, 6, negative 12. A little better, right? Looks like that. So that's the ultimate. That problem right there has every single thing we did in this section. Every single thing we did. Is that okay? We're going to do 2 more. They're just going to get a little harder each time I do them. Right? Each time I do them. All right. So here's our next one. What's the matter, Caroline? So if I take this one and I set it equal to 0, wouldn't I add 1, right? And then divide by 2? That's how you do it. Set it equal to 0 and solve it. Okay? All right. You guys make the list. Yep. This term right here. All right. Do the list. Do the list. Factors of the constant over factors of the leading coefficient. Factors of the constant over factors of the leading coefficient. So Ethan, what are our factors of 16? Keep on going. What numbers divide into 16? I know you know how to divide. 8 and 2. One more. And 16. Graham, what do I have to put in front of it? Plus and minus. Yep, plus and minus. All right, so I don't need to worry about the leading coefficient, right? Because it's 1. So I don't need to worry about that. How many parentheses am I going to have when I factor it? Right, hand it over here saying 4, Massimo saying 4, whatever the degree is. So I've got to have 4 parentheses, which means I'm going to have 4 zeros. All right, 4 zeros. All right, so what numbers you guys want to try? Probably going to stay away from 16. Maybe it'd stay away from 8. So I want you guys to find a 0. You guys choose the numbers, positive or negative, 1, 2, or 4. You guys decide what you want. Try different numbers with the people next to you. Right? It's always plus or minus. Always, always, always. Yep, it was plus or minus. Yep. Yep. When we make our list, it is always plus or minus. All right. Thank you. I didn't put it there, so thank you. I just didn't put it there. But it is always going to be plus or minus. All right, find some numbers, guys. 1, 2, 4, 8, 16. Again, I told you to stay away from 16. I told you to stay away from 8. So you're trying positive 1, negative 1, positive 2, negative 2, positive 4, negative 4. That one looks like it might work.
I was at 0. 0 times 4 is 0.
That's 0. So then that's not going to work.
I'm not having it today. 8 times 4 is
32. So it doesn't work. So you even need to finish that because you know it's not going to work. So you erase, try the negative 4.
1 times 2 is 1 times 1 is 1. What are you talking about? You don't multiply 1 times 1.
Right there's negative 4 though.
Okay, that's what
2
I got wrong.
times
I did a
negative 2
positive instead
negative.
of negative.
So then that's what? Positive 4.
And then
Ooh, Emery might have found one. Yep. Sophia found one that's a 2. So everyone's going to halt, right? You are going to erase what you have, and you're going to do a 2. Did someone say negative 2 worked as well? I forget the answer on this one. I really don't remember. Right? 2 works. So you want to have 2 be your 0. You know that it works because you got a 0. All right, so now, if this one is a 4th power, this one is a cube. I need it to be a square though. So I've got to find one more, right? I got to find one more. So you're going to have to maybe try -2, +4, -4. Right? So again, I don't remember which one it is. Did -2 work, Massimo, or you didn't finish it? Right? So let's try -2. Again, I totally forget which one works. So let's see. 1, -2, -4, 8, 12. Nope, it doesn't work. Okay. Did anybody try the ones? Right? Let's try 1. So it's 1, 1, -1, -1, 3. Nope, doesn't work. I wish I wrote my answers down, but I did not. -1. Let me see if -1 works. -1. Now it must be one of the 4s. Must be one of the 4s. It is not lunchtime yet. Oh my God, which one is it? Is it an 8? Hold on, let me look. Did you guys try some of the other numbers or no? It might be 8. Tracy, put your phone away. Oh, I remember what I did on this one. I remember what I did on this one. Shh, guys, right? I added 2 things in here that were hard, right? So I added in this one that 2 actually works again. I totally forgot I did that. Okay, I totally forgot I did that. So if we do 2 again, look, it works. So let's look at what that means, right? Totally forgot I did that. So let's look at our answer at this point. X equals 2 is my 0. So that means X minus 2 is my factor. This X equals 2 is my 0, which means X minus 2 is my factor again. What does it mean for the 0 when it has an even exponent? What does it do on the graph? Bounces, right? It bounces. So my fault, I totally forgot that I did that on this one. Well, yeah. Okay. Yep. And that's why I wrote them in different colors, because I wanted you to see which one's which. So this one I'm saying is my red one. This one I'm saying is my black one. Okay. So this is x squared. So we get x squared plus 4. So again, I'm kind of starting my factoring up here, right? I've got 2 factors. I've got 2 zeros. All right, we got to take that x squared plus 4 and factor it. How does x squared plus 4 factor? How could I make this one come as 2 factors? How do I break it up? How do I break it up into two factors? I could do the little box if I wanted to. Close, that's what everybody usually thinks. Close, that's what everybody usually thinks. It doesn't factor. So what do we do if it doesn't factor? We did this one yesterday. We can square root quadratic formula, right? I want you guys to do the quadratic formula, right? So A is 1, B is 0, C is 4. Shh, guys, come on. We can't lose you. Come on. I got to do the quadratic formula. So that means I've got negative B plus or minus B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. This first 0 doesn't really mean anything. Underneath the radical, it simplifies to negative 16. What happens when I have a negative under a radical? Right? Hannah's over here saying an I. Trent, what's the square root of 16? 4. Right? 4. Emery, what's 4 divided by 2? 2. So my other two answers, my other two zeros are 2I and negative 2I. So I'm kind of done. My other 0 is positive 2I. My last 0 is negative 2I. If I want to make those factors, right, just like I did over here, if I want to make those factors, all I need to do is take that 2I and bring it to the other side. So my other two factors are x minus 2I, x plus 2I. So that one was what, like number 3 in your homework, right? Number 3 in your homework. Again, you guys, again, I see some of you guys not going through this whole problem, right? I know it's a lot of work, but you need to get all the processes down. Just putting everything together. All right, last one before we do a new thing. How many times are we going to have to do synthetic? How many times we're going to have to do synthetic? It's a power of 4. So how many times do I have to do synthetic to bring it down to a quadratic? Right? So I got to do it twice. Okay? So I'm going to set up my synthetic. I'm going to set up my synthetic. All right, I'm setting up my synthetic. I know I have to do it twice. You guys make the list. Before I go ahead and make the list, you guys make the list first. See if you can get that list down. That is a 43, yes. Make the list. There's a lot of numbers in this list. Don't do it yet. Make the list first. Make the list first. Are there 40 of them? I don't think. There's a lot of them, but I don't think there's 40. All right, easiest way to make the list, guys, right? This is the easiest way to make the list. You start with 1. So 1 times 60. Put 60 all the way over here. All right? Then what? 2, 2, and 30. Does 3 go into it? 3 and 20. Then 4 and 15. You know you're almost done because the numbers are getting closer and closer and closer. Right? So then what? 5 and 12. and then one more, 6 and 10. Hannah, what am I going to do out front? Plus or minus. So we have 24 different numbers to try. And I only need to find 2 of them. Right? I only need to find 2 of them. Here, I'll give you a hint on one. Right? I'll give you a hint on one of them. Because I do think I made one a little higher. Is everybody okay on the list part? Right? List part. Here, let's see if I can give you a hint on one. All right, I'll give you a hint. There's 2 of them that they're going to work, and they're both going to be lower than 5. And here's another hint. One's odd, one's even. So I'm giving you a big hint. I'm telling you they're both lower than 5. So both lower than 5, one odd, one even. All right? You guys try it. One's positive, one's negative. I'll even give you that too. One positive, one negative, one odd, one even, all lower than 5. Ethan, I'd really suggest you're writing this problem down.
The A, B, and C come from the synthetic here.
Yep. When you guys find one that works, tell all of us. Again, one's positive, one's negative. Work with each other. Try some different numbers. So if it's not positive, then try the negative version. Anybody find one? What'd you find? 4. Graham's saying 4 works. So again, if you didn't find one, stop, go do 4. Perfect, 4 works. So he found the one that's positive. He found the one that's even. So you have to go for an odd negative now. Go for an odd negative. Go for an odd negative. Go for an odd negative. Negative, right? Odd negative. Yeah. Did you already try -3 and it didn't work?
I guess.
Yeah, you might have to sign. What'd you get? Yeah, I think it's -3. I think it's -3. So I get -3, -4, 12, 5, -15, 0. Perfect. All right, so let's see what we got on this, right? All right, so I have x equaling 4 being a 0. So that means the factor is x minus 4, right? And then I have the 0 being x equals -3. So then its factor is x plus 3. I'm purposely writing it like this, guys, for our new part that we're doing it today. And then our quotient, right? Our quotient is x squared minus 4x plus 5. So again, our ultimate goal is to get 4 zeros and 4 parentheses. You might think that it's factorable, but it's not. So I want you to do the quadratic formula again. I purposely made these last two quadratic formula ones. So you guys try the quadratic formula. See if you can get it. You guys do the quadratic formula. I believe you should get a negative under the radical. And if I remember the answer, I think there's a negative under the radical. Oops. -4ac. What do you get under the radical? Negative what? -4. Right? So you get 4 plus or minus square root of -4 over 2. Gracie, what do I do with the negative under the radical? What does it become? I take it out and make it a what? I. Graham, what's the square root of 4? 2. Right? So now if I rewrite it just to look prettier, 4 plus or minus 2i over 2. Can I simplify that? Right? Sophia, what do you want to simplify it to? Very good. That's it, right? 2 plus or minus I. 4 over 2 is 2. 2 over 2 is 1. All right, guys, come on. All right, so let me show you what that means, right? So that means I've got my 0 of 4. I've got my 0 of -3. Now I've got 2 more zeros, 2 plus I and 2 minus I. So if my 0 is 2 plus I, if my 0 is 2 minus I, that means I can write the factor as x minus 2 minus I. I can write the factor as x minus 2 plus I. I've got my 4 parentheses. I've got my 4 zeros. Can you graph it? All right, so if we graph it, leading coefficient right up, degree even left up, y-intercept -60, zeros, the only ones I can put on here are 4 and -3. You can't put the eyes on your picture, right? So you can draw it 2 ways for me. You could draw it like this if you wanted to. What usually happens with the eyes is that you get this like extra curve. You get this extra thing, these extra curves happening in the picture. But I don't care. You can either draw it the red way or the black way. I don't care. You just can't have it cross the x-axis anywhere else. Okay? All right, I'm going to give you one more. And then when we come back from lunch, we're going to do the new stuff. So that's one more. Do it all on your own. All with your partner. Do it up. Do it up. I'll tell you if there's eyes, because I told you this takes like a page each. Right? I'll tell you if there's any eyes. That's what I'll tell you. 6x cubed plus 4x squared. There are two eyes. Two eyes. Oh, shoot. Hold on, hold on. Yep. Hold on 1 second, guys. Don't continue yet. All right, my fault. It's a bad one. Don't do it, because my fault. It's a bad one. Okay? Because one of the zeros is a decimal. One of the zeros is a decimal. So don't do that one. And I should have known that because it says use a calculator. All right, so I don't have any more of those. Do you want another one for me to make up quickly or no? No? You guys are no fun. All right, so this is what we'll write before lunch, right? All right, so we just did two of them with eyes, right? Here's the benefit of having eyes. I could do another joke. That's what I was going to say, but you can see. Oh, that's the humor I get. All right, so here's the benefit of having the i's and the zeros, right? It's called the conjugate root theorem. So that means if a plus bi, so something like what we just had, 2 plus I. If 2 plus I is a 0, then 2 minus I must be a 0. So it's kind of like a 2-for-1 deal, right? 2-for-1 deal. If one of them works, the other one automatically has to work. And the reason is in our quadratic formula, right? In our quadratic formula, our i's happen when I have a negative under the radical. Well, if you look right in front of the radical, there is a plus or a minus, right? So if there's a negative under a radical, if there is an I, 2-for-1 deal, you automatically know 2 zeros. You can do synthetic with I's too, but it's kind of messy. So we'll stick with doing synthetic with the real numbers. Okay. All right. So when we come back from lunch, oh, I did have another one. That's okay. Okay. All right. So when we come back from lunch, we are going to go backwards. And this is our last piece, right? Going backwards. Going backwards. All right. So we'll do this when we come back from lunch. We got one more bell though. Yeah? That one? Yep. All right, so let's do our last item. Last item. Okay. So before lunch, right, we chatted that the complex numbers always come in pairs. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go backwards. Okay. So the first one doesn't have any I's in it. Okay. No I's for the first one. Guys, phones away. Right. So what I am giving you is I am giving you the zeros. Right. So I purposely wrote, which one did I purposely write? This one. Right. So what I'm doing is I am giving you this step right here. And I want you to get the original problem. Okay? So the other class said it was so much easier, and I totally agree with them. Okay, so if -1 is a 0, 4 is a 0, and 2 is a 0. You take them and you say, okay, you set them up like they're zeros. X equals a number. X equals a number. So this is kind of the 0 line. So then what we're going to do is we're going to set it up as factors. So I bring that -1 to the other side. It's X plus 1. I bring that 4 to the other side. It's X minus 4. I bring that 2 to the other side. It's X minus 2. So that is set up with factors. So now all you need to do is multiply it. Right? That's all you need to do. So you're going to take any two of them, right? Doesn't really matter. I'm going to take those two just because they're coming first. And I'm going to multiply it. So if I take X and multiply it by both parts, I get X squared minus 4X. If I take the 1 and multiply it to both parts, I get plus X minus 4. I'm going to go and simplify that. These two come together as -3X. So I FOILed those two parentheses. So now I need to finish it out. I need to multiply it by X minus 2. So I'm going to take all of these three and multiply it by X. So I get X cubed minus 3X squared minus 4X. So those are my first three that I multiplied. Then I'm going to take those three and multiply it to the second one. So now we did this a long time ago. I'm going to say like October, November. So when I take these three and multiply it by a -2, I like to stack them and line them up as I go. X squared times -2, -2x squared, right underneath x squared. -3 times -2, positive 6. -4 times -2, positive 8. So I already have them paired up, so I can just add down. And this is the original polynomial that would be the problem. So you're given the zeros and you're getting the polynomial. A lot less work. Okay? So of course we got to do at least one more. We got to do the I one. All right? So if I had one that had a 0 at 3 and a 0 at 2i. So again, I'm going to set it up as zeros. X equals 3. X equals 2i. What did we just say before lunch, though? If it has positive 2i, it has negative 2i as well. So I don't have to list it in the directions. You just automatically have to do that. So same deal. I'm going to bring that 3 to the other side. I'm going to bring that 2i to the other side. I'm going to bring that 2i to the other side. So the order in which you multiply, again, doesn't matter. But which 2 do you think you should do first? Which 2 kind of match? The 2i ones, right? The 2i ones. So I'm just going to bring this one down, right? I'm going to bring that one down. And I'm going to multiply these. So x times each of them is x squared plus 2ix. I'm going to multiply this negative 2i times both of them. Negative 2ix minus 4i squared. So now we're going to simplify that. Which ones cancel out? Positive and negative 2ix, right? This should always happen. Always, always, always. So we get x squared minus 4i squared. All right, let's remember, what does I squared equal? What does I squared equal? Is it what? So close. Negative 1. And here's the reason why it equals negative 1. We know our I is a negative under a radical. So if I say, okay, I want to square this side, I want to square this side, this and this cancel, and you get negative 1. So we're going to say, okay, I squared is negative 1, negative 4 times negative 1 is a positive 4. Positive 4. So now final answer. I'm going to take each of those and multiply it. You get x cubed minus 3x squared plus 4x minus 12. Minus 12. All right, one more for you guys to do, and then we'll give up. Yep, not give up, end. These squiggles right here, one says plus 2ix, the other one says minus 2ix, and then they cancel out. Is it cold in here? Is it? All right, last one. You guys do this one. You guys do this one. All right, let's say a 0 is positive 1. Let's say a 0 is negative 1. Let's say a 0 is 3i. So what am I going to automatically put in? Negative 3i. So this one's going to be a little more work, right? Because there's 4 of them. So factor x minus 1. Factor x plus 1. Factor x minus 3i. Factor x plus 3i. So I'm going to give you guys the easiest way to multiply these because there's 4 of them. You're going to multiply these 2. You're going to get an answer. You're going to multiply these 2. You're going to get an answer. And then you're going to take those 2 answers and get a final answer. So give it a try. See if you can get a correct final answer by multiplying. in both of these kind of intermediate steps, some stuff should cancel. Both intermediate steps, stuff should cancel. Do you guys get that x squared minus 1 for the first two? Right? First two should be x squared minus 1. Second one should be x squared plus 9. Right? Because you got a minus I squared. So it should be plus 9. And then final answer, x to the 4th plus 8x squared after you simplify, minus 9. Okay? All right, let's look at your homework, right? And let's set you up for the homework. So in Canvas, there are 2 things that say lesson 4. The first one was due today, and that one said what? No backwards. So now this one has a backwards in it. All right, so it's this page right here that starts with x plus 6. Starts with x plus 6. Okay, so I'm going to explain each problem. So number 1 and number 2, those are synthetic. You need to see if you get the 0. 1 and 2, you're doing synthetic, seeing if you get the 0. Number 3, you're going backwards. So write backwards on it. On letter 3B, what can you write right after 5i? Negative 5i. So 3b, if you want to write negative 5i. 4 is the big problem, right? You do your list, you do your synthetic division, you do it all. That's the big problem. Then on 5 and 6, right? Because we could have done a lot more on the big problems. On 5 and 6, you want to do behavior. So you want to do these lines because this is on your quiz too. So I wanted to make sure I was bringing that back. On 5 and 6, you're doing behavior. So Monday when we come in, right, we're going to go over homework. We're going to make sure you're good with everything. Tuesday, we don't see each other. And Wednesday is your quiz. This is an individual quiz, guys. So many of you guys haven't had homework.